Mondays are finally back. We kicked this off, like the week before everything shut down for COVID, right, Ben?
Yeah, somewhere right around that same time that it was shutting down, or we were about to shut down, and we were doing our part these last few weeks to, obviously do some social distancing, and now that things are starting to kind of open up a little bit, we wanted to kick it back off, and this will be a weekly thing, right?
Yeah, we'll do this every Monday, so definitely look forward to it, everybody. And just, the idea is really providing a platform for us to kind of share what we're up to, what we're doing, and also answer people's questions. I know a lot of people are interested out there to learn about what we're doing, what the world's going on. They have general questions about buying or investing. Yeah. And so really, we just figured, rather than a lot of people email us separately, it'd be great to put on the show and really do that live to help answer questions for everyone else. And so that's really the big plan here. And so
I think it's purely educational, right? We're not going to be trying to sell you anything. This is just what we're seeing in the market and how we can help people, right? Because there's a lot of followers out there that want to kind of know how we're reacting to COVID, how we're managing our business through this crisis, and over the the coming months, because we're not out of the woods just yet, right?
I think we did sell a Woods of Decatur, so
we did sell Woods of Decatur.
We had a property called Woods of Decatur that a fun property, took a lot of work, but we are out of that property, thankfully. So sold that. That was 5 months ago. It's been a long 5 months. Huh?
I know, right? It's been a long 5 weeks. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of folks, you're staying at home. The kids might be home too from school. It's but this is the time, folks, to get educated. Get caught up on your reading, get caught up on your podcast, educate yourself, because there will be opportunities in the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
no, we're excited to be back. And so for those of you out there, for those of you just starting, definitely feel free to ask questions, right? We will read questions, we'll help answer questions, we'll do whatever is kind of needed. So I guess with that said, Ben, so how have you been the past couple of weeks?
I would be lying if I said that it wasn't stressful, right? I think everybody's going through a lot of stress, right? Let's all just be truthful about that. Both on a personal basis with having kids home and not being in school and all that stuff, but also, professionally, there's just a lot of disruption, no pun intended, in our market. Multifamily and just real estate and the economy in general. And, but I've didn't have any more hair to lose anyway, so didn't have that to worry about. But I've been trying to kind of keep it in perspective, and it's given us some time to get caught up on some initiatives. And, we're excited to maybe talk about those over the coming weeks too.
For this session, we do want to focus more on, kind of what we've been doing, what's been going on with COVID, and then also what are we seeing on the acquisition side, right?
Yeah.
So that will be the focus for this one, and so we'll definitely go through some of that.
Yeah. Well, let's kick it off. Maybe talk about some of the things that we were doing pre-COVID, because I think one thing that a lot of, at least our investors know, is that we were set up as a remote company up until January. And then we got some office space, we built out the studio, and so we were already using and leveraging technology, because both me and Ferris come from a technology background. And so, we were already set up as a remote business. So whenever this hit, it wasn't a culture shock for us.
No, it was not. For those of the people that do know me, the idea is really, how do we leverage the stuff that all the tech companies out there already know how to use, and really bring that to kind of make us more efficient. So thankfully that worked out really well with, us and our team, and kind of having a lot of the tools in place, right? And so maybe to kind of kick it off, the first one really was Slack. That was one that took me a while.
Would you say that this is which one would you say, and we're sharing a screen here for everybody that's following this, which one of these three would you say is the most important? If you're going to do any one today, and we'll go through each one of them.
If you're smaller, Slack. If you're bigger, you can get by without Slack and do Asana.
Okay.
Right? Asana helps you stay organized. Slack, for most people, they don't really realize the power of Slack until you use it, including Ben over here.
No.
First, he's like,
he had to hammer it into me a little bit a couple times. Ben would always
text me, and I literally told Ben one day, I'm like, all right, you're not allowed to text me anymore. After this point in time, Slack me only.
A couple times.
But now he loves it, right? He starts to, and I tell people, your email and text are a continuous, infinite stream of data and information.
So what is it? And it's one or two sentences. What is
it? So Slack is just another way to communicate. For those of you that use WhatsApp, it's another chat protocol. Okay. But what makes it powerful is two things, right? A, you start to separate ideas out from the content. Right? Again, your email is never ending, right? Infinite stream, it's a river. But sometimes, whenever we're talking about marketing, you want to talk about it in the marketing channel.
Okay.
Talking about sales, you want to talk about the sales channel. talking about maybe the specifics of a property, put it in the property channel.
So it keeps your chats and what you're trying to talk about in specific places so you can keep them organized.
Yeah, exactly. So I tell people it's just very much that. It's separating continuous information to concepts and spaces where you're talking about just that thing.
Yep.
And so even if you're like a 3-person company, it's still very powerful because guess what? If I need to remember what we talked about marketing, I can go search my email, it might take forever, right? Versus I'm going to go to the marketing thing, and that's just the stuff that are relevant to that. And so it's definitely a very powerful tool. For those of you that have not used it, I highly recommend it. We had a friend that was in our office, recently, and same thing. I mean, he had not rolled it out. He rolled it out. He literally texted me the next day. I didn't tell you this actually.
Yeah.
Texted me the next day. He's like, I freaking love Slack.
Who was? Oh, it was Greg.
Yeah.
Greg Meach. Yeah,
Then
he's a good guy.
Then he proceeded to say, I still haven't figured out Confluence.
Well,
So
that's probably a good. So Slack, just to give you another example, folks, of how you can use it, right? Maybe you have 2 or 3 properties. You could have a Slack channel for A, B, C properties. So, and you can invite, say, your property manager or your regional, right, to that Slack channel, and you guys can message that way about what's going on. And it's quick. It's not meant to be one of those things where you get a long book of an email and a lot of attachments. It's more of just like a text message. But you can get the app on your phone. You can have it on your computer, and it's been a game changer for me.
Yeah.
So, but that's a good segue into Confluence. So, talk to us. What is Confluence?
So Confluence really, at its core, it's a knowledge base, right? We have tons of different initiatives going on. This being one of them. Each initiative has a bunch of different things associated with it, and it might not be tasks. So maybe let's talk about Asana. We'll come back to Confluence.
All right.
Right. So Asana is what we use for task management. You can have different projects, different, people can own different things, and it very much is a way to put task management on steroid, and you can make it as complex or not as complex as you want. And so for Asana, I mean, we have different projects, tasks in each project, and really it's meant to be a place that people can know what needs to be worked on. You can go check on the status of things, communicate, and so we've rolled that out. And that one, there's definitely some growing pains, right?
Yeah.
But once the team started to kind of work that into their system, it actually started to make a difference. And, so,
and to add what Ferris is saying, once again, folks, if you've got properties, you can have your on-site manager, your regional, you can assign them tasks. Maybe you have a weekly call with them, right? And there's maybe 5 takeaway action items from there. You can assign those, or you can have your VA assign those to whoever is in charge of those action items. You can set due dates. So before the next week's call, right? All that stuff should be done in in an ideal world, right?
Yeah.
That's the point of it, is to keep people accountable. And if they blow through those due dates, why? What's going on? And you can see the due dates and who's assigned to what thing, and you can just go down the task list and say, hey, so-and-so, why hasn't this been done? And so it keeps everybody accountable.
Yeah. It's and organized.
And
Accountable
organized.
And organized.
When you're in this kind of post-COVID business environment, I think we're going to find ourselves in. I think a lot of these things that we're talking about, folks, you might even see on your day jobs. You're probably gonna need to introduce them when your syndication or your investment business as well. So that's the reason why we're introducing some of the tools that that we've used. So talk to us about Confluence. What's Confluence?
All right, so Confluence. So the problem is you start using Asana, and then you start to use Asana to kind of keep an organization of things that aren't really tasks, and you start to get lost.
Okay.
Right? We've done that because really in Asana you complete a task and it gets
Like
checked out.
notes and processes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so Confluence is really kind of the next step that you need to grow into, which is really our knowledge base. There's a lot of them out there, right? And it's really a way to stay organized. Think of it as it's an internal Wikipedia.
Okay.
Right? It's different concepts have a bunch of different docs because I think most people start to get lost, including us, between Asana, then Google Docs, and not everyone has access to Google Docs.
Well, I don't know
can't
about you.
really
I was
search
never
that.
lost. I mean, but I keep up with that all the time, right?
Ben was born lost, so it wasn't any different. And so, it's with Confluence, it's really powerful because you start to search it, you start to keep everything really organized, and you can have different, tiered structure. And so if I want to go back and look at the marketing, I can go to the marketing, I can go drill down to Disrupt TV, and I can go see, what all the things that we have going on, and you can continue to evolve it. That's the powerful thing about it, right? Keeping everyone, reviewing, editing, you can go back and see all the reversion history, and it's a resource to put together resources, right?
So, to kind of dumb it down for us folks that aren't as smart as this guy, right? So how I look at Confluence is, your employee handbooks, your processes and your procedures, right? And we'll get to an example here later on, but during COVID, it was extremely powerful, right? We had one that was a resident facing one that they could hit, and these were all the resources that they could, kind of tap into to, for rental assistance or TWC or whatever it might be. And then we had one that was internal for our on-site managers. This is the process that we want you to follow to stay safe first and foremost, right? But keep the lights on at the same time, keep operating in a safe environment. So it was huge because it was a real quick way, and then it's automatically published out to people that have access to that different level of stuff. So think of it like Ferris had said, to like a Wikipedia page. So these are some of the tools, and we've got other ones, right, that we use, but these are probably the three most important ones that we wanted to share with everybody. But if we wanted to go kind of to the next slide.
Pause. I think it says it's paused. All right, let's see. People can still hear me chime in, but for those of you that can hear me, definitely feel free to ask questions, right? Post questions, ask questions. We're happy to take a look. We might have lost it.
Do we have a technical glitch here?
Maybe. It's unclear. It said it was paused. Maybe it's still good.
Well, hey, even the tech guys have technical glitches. It's just this, it's a new thing. The studio, we built this out a few months ago, and we're still kind of testing out all the capabilities of it. And, doing this is actually fairly complex,
Yeah, I think we're good.
So, well, we're being told that we're back. If we lost you, if we didn't, I apologize. If we could maybe go to the next slide. Wanted to kind of go through a few more things here. So COVID happens. Like everybody, like we were talking about earlier, we were already using these tools. This pandemic did not force us into the situation. We were already a technology-driven company as it was. So COVID happens, right? And you really have to adopt this type of stuff. But on top of that, what are some of the other things that we had to do to really kind of batten the hatches down and make it through kind of the whole month of April, essentially?
Just remember me and you locking ourselves in the conference room and just kind of putting together a plan for all the properties, where each property is at, what we need to do. And so I think we put together a really brief slide deck to kind of go through some of those. But I mean, it's just really identify the problem. Don't get lost in, the world's a terrible place. But hey, here's the problem and here are the different solutions, and let's put together a plan to go execute. Yeah. And so really, I mean, we just sat down with the team and said, hey, here's the different things and what do we want to do, right? And from collections to, we're going to go through all these different things and kind of put together a plan. But I guess let's kick it off. So the very first one was really manage money tightly.
Yeah,
right? I mean, want to go through maybe some of the stuff.
I would say, and we had talked about this probably a month or so ago when we had our last one, right? I mean, cash is king, as is always the case whenever there's a little bit of a slowdown, and this is no different. Right? So cash being, you got to make sure that you can get your collections or at least keep them somewhat stabilized. Our portfolio, across the whole portfolio, was about 5 to 10% decrease in collections. And I think that seems to be the consensus amongst all of our friends. So ultimately, April, I think we dodged a bullet.
Much better than expected.
Much better than we expected. May and June, we're being even more proactive, talking with our tenants and managing collections, because I think that's when people are going to really start feeling the pain. So, some things that you can kind of slow down on is just being strategic on what you spend your money on too, right? So unless a CapEx thing is just an emergency type situation, we're telling everybody just to hang tight on it, right? You can always, your lender's going to understand, they totally get it, right? So, unless it's an emergency, I always say, hey, at least put a pause on the CapEx and the rehab. Turns, right? You always want to keep leasing, but let's be honest, folks, not a whole lot of people are going to be leasing right now anyway. Now, there's still folks, believe it or not, I probably wouldn't have been one of them, but there was people that actually moved in to our properties in April. So you have to have at least some inventory, but you don't have to be super expedient about it. So that all kind of helps. And then I think on top of that, just being smart about your other expenses too, right? Whether it be payroll or anything else that you can kind of somewhat control. You got to be smart, and then tap into some of those federal assistance programs, right? PPP, if you can, the EIDL through the SBA, and just kind of build up those reserves, whether it be through those programs or your own cash reserves, and so those are just some of the things that I would say you got to do to manage your cash correctly. But
doesn't he do a good job, guys? He just keeps going and going and going. Keep going, Ben. I mean, I'm just going to sit here, check my Facebook, hang out a little bit. But no, to Ben's point, I mean, it's about cash is king, right? And don't do the upgrades if you don't need to right now, right? Because again, the biggest problem, we don't know if this is going to go on for a month, 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, right? And just being smart about making sure we're resilient, kind of plan for there's a good phrase for it. Hope for the best, plan for the worst kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's very much that. And so that was maybe the very first easiest thing to just tell the teams, like, hey, no more, non-essential upgrades, no more spending money that we don't need to, and let's just really start to kind of micromanage everything, right?
Absolutely.
And so before I go to the next slide, for those of you on, please feel free to ask questions. We're happy to answer them. We will go through them live, and again, this is really meant to make it a Q&A and let people ask questions.
Yeah, we want this to be interactive, folks. Just like Ferris doesn't want to hear me talking the whole time. I'm sure you guys don't want to hear me talk the whole time too. We all learn by the questions that you guys ask too. So I think if we make it interactive, I think it can be fun, and we can all learn together, right? That's what's important. We are all getting through this together. So I talked about some of it, right? You got to manage your payables tightly, right? So talk about some of the things that somebody could potentially do on the payable side.
First and foremost, if you have vendors that are willing to do net 60, don't do net 30, right?
Yeah.
Don't pay us, immediately if you don't have to, right? Because with our properties, once they start humming along, you get a tendency to just pay everything off immediately, right? But really, if you don't have to contractually, don't, right? Build up your cash reserves, have more cash on hand, because you never know when or if you might need it. And so that was definitely one. And then, really from that, start to go through all your payables and figure out how much of these are still needed or not needed, right? Like, do we need to trim down the marketing budget, right, for example? And so really understanding your payable and the situation, and have the biggest thing too is have a game plan. Talk to your vendors, figure out where they're at, right? And you're going to, what we saw is some vendors who are tight on cash, they're being aggressive about collections. And, you just got, hey.
Well, you brought up a good point too, man. If you can work out a payment plan too, you talk to some of these smaller vendors, right? And let's just use round numbers. Say you owe Joe Blow Handyman $10,000, right? Joe Blow Handyman might be willing to settle for $5 just to get money in his bank account immediately too. Now that doesn't mean that you're going to burn that bridge. Obviously, it's an agreement that you have to come together on, but we've also worked out payment plans, right? So that's also an opportunity for you to kind of bow wave out your payables a little bit, but also maybe clear them up, but at a lower price. So I think that's important for people to understand too, is people are willing to negotiate right now because they'd much rather have, a little bit of money versus no money, right?
Absolutely. We still good to go, Shanna? All right, just making sure we're good to go, guys.
We're still having technical glitches.
We're trying a new tool that's going to help us, get it out everywhere. So, trying out some things. But again, so for maybe just to kind of go through some questions before we keep going. Nadal, hey, how's it going? Nice.
What's up, buddy?
You're missing out, man. You saw this place firsthand, didn't you?
Hey. Hope you're staying safe, brother.
Yeah. And let's see. Jeff, thanks for letting us know it's interrupted. Ronnie, what's up?
What's up, buddy?
And Rock, you too. And let's keep going then. So next thing was really, what was the plan that we put in place for
I think this is probably key, folks. I mean, everybody needs to stay safe. It was a serious situation, and that was our most important, is to keep our staff safe and keep our residents safe. So, you got to implement a game plan. You can't just leave that up to somebody to understand what to do. You really need to take that game plan from the CDC or somebody that's that knows what they're talking about and implement that into a business setting. And so we did that almost immediately. For us, we kept the office open throughout the crisis, and we still maintain it open, but it was closed to the residents, right? So now that doesn't mean that they couldn't have set up an appointment and we could figure out a mutually agreed upon place to meet them if they really, really wanted to talk to us face to face. But if they did, then there's obviously going to be stuff that we're going to take into consideration, right? Gloves, masks, 6 feet, social distancing was key, and then just, keeping everything sanitized. Yeah. That's the most important thing. We don't want anybody to get sick. So, but at the same time, understanding that this is a business and we are considered a, essential business because we provide housing, and, we had to keep that open. Closing that off to everybody would have been the worst idea that we could have done, right? Because a lot of our workforce housing residents, it's not like they pay 100% online and they do everything online. There's a lot of folks that have questions, they got concerns, they pay with, checks. And you have to have some kind of a presence there. So it's important to keep everybody safe in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep on.
All right. So this goes back. You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so I mean, putting a plan, the more you can help your tenants, the more you can help yourself kind of situation, right? And so, you know, really we just did a proactive, just all the different things that are coming out. Most tenants don't know what they will get and how to get those, right? It's unfortunate, but I mean, again, it's just complicated with all the stuff's going on. And so really putting together a plan to kind of capture all of the information, organize it in a place that people can understand, and give it to tenants, right? So we put together, and we'll show it on the next. I think it's actually the next slide, right? Where
oh yeah,
I mean,
here we
there
go.
it is, right? You can kind of see.
So this is Confluence,
what
folks.
that resource looked like, right? And just kind of, this is one of our Confluence pages. We made it a public page, and making it available as tenants. And literally, we told our tenants, "Hey, go to this. Here's all the information. Let us know how we can help you."
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's really, the combination for people that maybe lost their job and people that didn't, right? Again, they just need share the information, help them be educated on that.
And some examples of some stuff that you could include in this type of notices, and you could do this the old school way and print it out. And I think we did both, right? Because not everybody's going to have the internet, not everybody's going to know how to use the internet, right? But for the folks that did use it, right, we links to the TWC. So for people that are here in Texas, is Texas Workforce Commission. It's where people file for unemployment. That was huge, right? Where they could go and find out where their stimulus check is, how to, is there information that they have to give the IRS in order to get their stimulus check? Rental assistance programs, and some of those are specific to cities. Like we had one that was specific to San Antonio. It's not like one that's nationwide. Most of the time, those are very, very specific to submarkets. Yeah, they might sometimes be statewide, but for the most part, they're going to be the city or the county might be able to provide them something. So those are some of the examples of some things that you could put on a page like this. And then you say, hey, go to this page, check this out. You're trying to give them resources to help themselves, right? And you want to be proactive in doing this. You don't want to wait until the 5th of the month and say, well, did you check with the TWC or did you check with this? Because sometimes there's a lag time to get some of the stimulus money. So, the sooner in the process you can get this to people, the better. So these are some of the resources that we provided some of our residents. So, but from there, you got to implement a game plan. You got to collect cash, right? And collections is king. And so, what we did before was all because we were trying to make sure that we can keep our collections up, right? And, and you're going to have to work with some folks. One thing that we got to say, right? Some folks just might not have the money. And so then you've got to be proactive in how can we work out a payment plan? One that's achievable, because I think, saying, okay, I'll give you 2 months, forbearance on your rent, and then 3 months is due, at the end of that 2 months. Well, let's be honest, a lot of the workforce housing tenants are not going to be able to do that. So you have to implement something that's going to be realistic that they can achieve. And that's on a case-by-case basis. So we were doing that the whole time. So maybe the next slide here.
All right.
Ooh, this is the good stuff.
I figure out, yeah.
So this is the good stuff. So we're tracking collections daily. We were thinking about doing it weekly, but ultimately it needed to be tracked daily. So one thing that we did, and people will kind of see a spike here, is across a lot of our portfolio, we did an actual contest, right? If you paid before the 1st or by the 1st, you got put into a contest that you collect $500. Right? And then if you pay by the 3rd, it was the same contest, but you would collect $250. So it was very, very successful. We're going to continue to do it. As you can kind of see on these graphs, there's certainly a spike all the way up till the 3rd, right? And then you kind of plateau out, and then you're just kind of grinding it out the rest of the month. But we wanted to see on a month-to-month basis, April versus March, where we were at. And as you can see, we were fairly close, on the majority of the properties. Now, there's some that might have a lag for whatever reason or not. Marketplace Square, the reason that you see a little bit of a lag there, that's a property that's close to Atlanta Hartsfield in Atlanta. We had 10 or 15 employees that were either an employee of the airport or employee at Delta. And ultimately, they're having a little bit of a struggle right now. But, obviously, you got to work with them. They came in with a legit COVID furlough letter. And so what can we do there? And everybody wants to have a house or, a roof over their head. So they're going to try to work with you. Yeah. Communicate to investors. I think that's important. We implemented something in April that we're going to continue to implement over the next couple months. which is a mid-month update on where we're at on collections and just kind of giving people a little bit of a pulse versus just a 1 month, communication.
Here's a sample of that. So you definitely kind of see, just investors appreciate that. They like the fact that you kind of walk them through where things are at, and they see you're out there, working hard on the property.
No, we are. Yes. And it doesn't take that long, right? That doesn't have to be a big long email. I think it was a couple paragraphs and then the graph.
Yeah.
Right.
So then so that's really it. I mean, that's kind of the highlight of the stuff that we're working through. Hopefully, definitely the first Money Monday. I know we had a little bit of kinks here and there, but definitely hope people got some value out of that. For those of you that might be still watching, if anything is still connected. But, we'll definitely look forward to seeing you guys next Monday, and we'll kick it off then, right, Ben?
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. And
thank you.